and welcome back to part 39 of Death End Request, where we carry on with showing off everything I've missed. Firstly is this interesting thing called the episode chart. Every main event that happens in the game and every death end that you get, which is why you want to do the death ends, can earn you a reward through the episode chart. You just press the pause button, touch the touchpad, and you go onto the screen. And every single one of these has a reward to it. The red ones are death ends. The ones that say are red and have bad next to them, they're the death ends that we've got throughout the game. Which also gets to highlight the fact that I didn't miss a single death end. I did manage to show off all 28 of them throughout this journey. But the rest of this video is we're not just showing off the episode chart today. The rest of this video is entering the pain area. I will be doing all of the pain area on this playthrough. So this video, the next one, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, all of them is the pain area. It's 5 floors and I tackle 1 floor per part. I say Monday, Tuesday all the way to Friday, but I might, with a couple of them, decide to do more than one, but we'll see how much patience I got, essentially, because simply put, this isn't going to be one of those things where I'm going to be able to have things to say all the time. So I've actually planned ahead of this. I'm going to carry on talking about the game as we go, but when I run out of things to say, I've got a little notepad next to me of events I've yet to talk about that I'd like to talk about. So I'm just going to go through that and hope that I can somehow keep this rolling for 5 more videos. But off screen I unequipped everyone so I could re-equip them with stuff now involving the equipment we got from the episode chart. Also, Rapuka will be joining us in the party, so I can actually show off what DLC Rapuka is like. And I've given her the death end recital because although she's around everyone's level, she is significantly behind. So I used the camp to restore everyone, and then let's get a move on. So when you're ready, just click pain area and you're in. And this is it, you're looking at it right now. There is no aesthetical change between floors. You literally just go up to an enemy, fight it, move to the next room, fight that encounter, rinse and repeat. But my first priority is going to be with Rapuka to try and unlock as many of her skills as possible. Worth mentioning that a lot of her skills will hurt anything in front of her. It doesn't matter if it's enemy or ally, so you need to be wary of that. Since I've recorded all of it, I can tell you now from experience, I try not to worry about it too much. And if a teammate happens to be in the way, I kind of just go with it, up until Sheena gets caught in one of them.
What it is?
Like each time, you're gonna see every time Celica gets caught in it, she barely takes any damage because Celica is as OP as she is. But when Sheena does, Sheena just fucking falls. There's just no other way of putting it. She just gets whacked once and she's just down out and out of the count. It's kind of funny, but she's gone.
Fair. Leave it to me.
But all of the encounters are like tougher normal encounters than you'll get in the main game, which is why I didn't want to do it until post game. And because of how many encounters, because we average about 10 encounters per floor, and none of these are short encounters, and there's a boss fight at the end of each floor. That is why these videos are going to take so long. It's just I'm going to warn you now, the 5th part is nearly 50 minutes long, and it's all just the final floor, because it just gets that ridiculous. And you're going to see, like, throughout the duration of this, at first I show off attack animations, but then it kind of sets in of, oh no, wait, this is the pain area, this is like a 3-hour endeavour. So I start skipping animations impulsively,
Leave it to me.
without much of a second thought, because I know it's the only way we're going to get through it in a reasonable time frame.
I'm starting to believe.
Additionally, the glitch spots that are on the floor are the same in every encounter minus the boss fights at the end. So learn where they are now and learn what ones work to your benefit now. There is an invincibility one there, but it's also an attack boost and a movement boost among them. There's a stun one and all the red are poison.
My turn.
Like that white one there, I think that one's the attack boost. We'll see if I know it. Oh, I decided against it, never mind. But yeah, that's it. What you're going to see, I want to finish this encounter so I can get to my next point. But when you finish this one, that's just it. there's no fanfare. You can get little items, but they're usually not worth it. But you just gotta carry on. And if you're wondering where the checkpoint is, when you're halfway through a floor, or when you finish a floor, you get a checkpoint. A checkpoint that you have to spend money to get back to. And it's not cheap either. So when you're ready, carry on going. Every second encounter, and hopefully you'll be able to just see it before... Yeah, you can just see it on the right there. Every second encounter has a treasure chest for your troubles.
My turn.
On each floor, there's only usually one reward that's worth it, because you can get a weapon for each character minus one of them. I think minus Sheena. I know there's 5 weapons, but I think Sheena's the only one who doesn't get a new weapon from this. Because she can get great ones some other ways. But the weapons you get in here, one of the weapons you get in here, Celica's weapon, which is I think is on the final floor, is interesting because although as a whole it boosts your stats less than the DLC Ultimate Weapon, the stats it decides to boost are actually more beneficial to you. So I actually prefer to equip it, and what I mean is the stats that the Ultimate Weapon boosts more of are stats that already hit 999 naturally because it's Celica. Whilst the stats that the weapon you can get from the pain area boost are stats that don't hit 999. So it's actually more beneficial to have that since you're actually then getting a bonus. Also, you're welcome to guess what level everyone makes it to the end of this, but I can tell you right now, everyone surpasses like 150, I think. Like everyone gets to really high levels by the end of this.
Who should I aim for?
But I think it's time I turn to that list and start going through things to talk about, otherwise this is going to be a very long drag of a few videos. So I'm actually going to start with the big one, and that's the Game of the Year Awards, talking about what's been nominated, what ones I agree with, what one I nominated for, and hopefully why. But understand that I'm not a VR person, and I'm not an esports person, so my knowledge on both of them when I'm talking about this is extremely limited. So that being said, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up to the Game of the Year. So at the bottom of the list is the VR stuff, which is Asgard's Wrath, Blood and Truth, Beat Saber, No Man's Sky, and Trover Saves the Universe. Now personally, I'm going to go with Beat Saber, which I know is like the smallest budget one, and I should probably be leaning more towards, say, Blood and Truth. But Beat Saber has sheer enjoyability factor of how easy it is to just sort of get into and enjoy it for what it is. So I would give it to that one personally. Next up is strategy games, which was Age of Wonders Planetfall, Anno 1800, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Total War Three Kingdoms, Tropico 6, and Wargroove. That one's a no-brainer for me. It's Fire Emblem Three Houses. That game's fucking great. Simply put, that game is a very well polished and vastly improved version of a couple of the previous Fire Emblem games. Because I'm not a Fire Emblem guy, but I really enjoyed Three Houses for what it is. While some of the other ones on here, like, well, the ones that I've played, like Total War Three Kingdoms, it wasn't my cup of tea. Tropico 6 I felt was very lackluster, and I haven't played the other ones to give an opinion on them. So Fire Emblem Three Houses is an easy win for me. Moving up, sports or racing games, we have Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, Dirt Rally 2.0, Pro Evolution Soccer 2020, as I accidentally click on it, F1 2019, and FIFA 20. I'm only giving this to Crash on proxy, really, because I don't like any of the others on the list. But I say that knowing full well that if given the choice, I wouldn't give it to it either. The game I'd want to give it to be honest, would be Team Sonic Racing, because Team Sonic Racing is actually a very solid racing game. The only thing that let it down was that its multiplayer, the way it handled its online multiplayer was very poor. You have to join set rooms, there is no public multiplayer of any kind, and so a lot of the multiplayer for the game died very quickly. But Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, I don't really want to give an award to because of how shady the business practices surrounding it, and to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of it. Like, put the nostalgia to one side, the game had a big, it was very shaky to me personally, so it's only getting it on default because I felt the others were just bad games. Well, not bad games because that's unfair, but just not anywhere near as good. Next, score and music, which we have Cadence of Hyrule, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Sayonara of Wild Hearts. This one's a tough one to me. I love Cadence of Hyrule's use of the music. I love the atmosphere that Death Stranding gave with its tone and music. I love the sheer energy of Devil May Cry 5. I love the orchestral fan service that Kingdom Hearts 3 provided. And Sayonara Wild Heart is just a nice beat of a game. So that's a really goddamn brutal one to me. But that one I could be argued any way, if I'm honest. If someone told me this one deserves to get it, I'd say yeah, it does. But if someone said actually no, I think that one deserves it, I'd equally say yeah, it does. But personally, I voted Kingdom Hearts 3 because I'm a sucker for orchestral music. And I felt like that's the only thing that Kingdom Hearts 3 deserves, if I'm honest, because base KH3 was a bit disappointing. It's not as bad as a lot of people make out, but it was a bit disappointing. So I'd give it to KH3, but like I said, but that's only because it could literally be any of them. Best role-playing game, you've got Disco Asylum, Final Fantasy XIV, which, although it's a few years old, Shadowbringers came out this year, so that does count, KH3, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and The Outer Worlds. This is entirely my bias kicking in, but I love Final Fantasy XIV, and what Shadowbringers added to the table absolutely deserves all the credit it gets. So Final Fantasy XIV is a no-brainer for me. But that won't stop me from highlighting how amazing Monster Hunter World's Iceborne expansion and how amazing The Outer Worlds were. Both of them deserve a hell of a lot of credit for what they were. And the only reason I'm not mentioning Disco Asylum is just because I haven't played it, so I don't have an opinion on it. But to me personally, Shadowbringers was amazing and deserves so much praise. Next, Best Performance. We have Ashley Birch as Parvati Holcomb from The Outer Worlds. I'm probably going to butcher these names, so let me off. Courtney Hope as Jessie Faden from Control. Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz from Gears 5. Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff from Death Stranding. Matthew Porretta as Dr. Casper Darling from Control. Or Norman Reedus as Sam Porter Bridges in Death Stranding. I'm not a voice actor, so I'm only going to go off the one that I enjoyed the most, which I gave to Courtney Hope as Jessie Faden from Control, because I just felt she did a very solid performance covering the emotional range the character should have, whilst also showing the more limiting side when it needed to be. I can't... Like, Ashley Birch did a great job as Parvati in Outer Worlds, but it just wasn't on the same level to me. Laura Bailey, I love Laura Bailey as an actress, I think she's amazing, but I haven't played Gears 5 to hear a performance in that, so it wouldn't be fair for me to just give her that kind of thing. Mads Mikkelsen, I think, does a very solid job as Cliff, but it's just, once again, it's just kind of Matthew Porretta, to be honest, I can't actually remember how he sounded, so I'm gonna have to let that one go. Norman Reedus, I'm probably gonna annoy a few people with, but I didn't like his performance. The way I felt towards Norman Reedus' performance was the same thing I felt towards Kiefer Sutherland's performance as Snake in MGS5, and that he is an amazing physical actor, but he is not as good as a voice actor as people keep on telling me he is. I found that he mumbled a lot of the lines and just kind of grumbled his way through most of Death Stranding, and that isn't something that I think should be awarded personally. Norman Reedus is an amazing actor, and he absolutely deserves the actor medal awards he gets for his live performances, but for his voice acting performance, no, that wasn't enough for me personally. And to be honest, it's a shame that Johnny Young Bosch wasn't on the list, because I think Johnny Young Bosch's performance as Nero in Devil May Cry 5 was legendary. I think he really deserved a hell of a lot more credit than he got, and it's a shame he just didn't get it. But moving on, we have Best Ongoing Game. We've got Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Siege. I gave this, in a similar vein to before, I gave this to Shadowbringers. However, if Warframe was on this list, to be honest, I would have given it to that, because Warframe deserves it more. It might not be anywhere near as popular as the other titles on here, but its commitment to progress, and how far it's come since its launch, and how far it's continuing to push itself, whilst not once like coming into greed, because it's a free game, keep in mind. but they outright got rid of microtransactions that people were buying too much because they didn't want people to buy. They didn't want people to overspend. They wanted people to just play and experience it. And yet they keep on adding more stuff to it, more planets, more environments, more gameplay mechanics, more weapons. The amount of commitment they've got towards it, that deserves an award for best ongoing game, because it is kept ongoing and never stopped trying to reach for the stars. And people are growing to love it, so I feel like that one deserved it, but it's not on the list, so I'm giving it to Shadowbringers. And that's not to turn, like, Apex Legends, I'm not a big fan of the Battlegrounds like games. You might have caught on when I played Blackout with Callum, I only played it with Callum, because I just wasn't a big fan of them as were. So, it was just, I didn't mind playing them, but Destiny 2, I do not like Destiny full stop. People who know me personally know that I gave Destiny 1 quite a lot of slack and quite a lot of fair chance, and it just continued to let me down beyond that, and I just think it's a complete disappointment as a series. Fortnite, once again, I've never actually touched Fortnite, nor do I ever have the intention of doing so, because it's just not my thing. And Siege's great, it's just I don't think it's improved as much as it has in previous years. Like, nearing the end of year 2 and going into year 3 what felt like its prime in terms of growth, like of how much it was moving forward and how constant it was moving forward. It deserved ongoing game then, but nowadays it's reached quite a healthy spot that it can stay at for now, kind of thing. Next, we got Best Narrative. We got A Plague Tale, Innocence, Control, Death Stranding, Disco Asylum, and The Outer Worlds. I'm going to give it to Outer Worlds, because I felt like it was exactly what I'd been missing for years, and it just delivered on so many fronts of having so many different characters that added something, yet made you think, and then just made you want to approach things in different ways. They gave so much personality to the world through its characters and through its writing that it absolutely deserves that. And I know I'm knocking down Control and Death Stranding, but trust me, I'm sure they'll have their turn. Multiplayer game, you have Apex Legends, Borderlands 3, Modern Warfare, Tetris 99, and Division 2. There's 2 games on here that I think both kinda deserve the award, but for different reasons. Tetris 99, because of how accessible it is, and how easy to hop in, and the fact that it literally took the world by storm in its own little way, and so I think that deserves kudos. But Modern Warfare is the one I'm also leaning towards, because it's the first Call of Duty since Black Ops 2 that felt like had heart in it. That I felt like was genuinely made with passion, and the passion actually shows in the game as is. And so I appreciate it for what it is, and I think it does deserve commending for it, because it's a really fun multiplayer game. Mobile game. This one's a blank subject for me, because I don't play mobile games, full stop. Because there's Call of Duty Mobile, Grindstone, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sky Children of the Light, and What the Golf. I guess I'm giving it to Sayonara Wild Hearts, but that's because that's the only one I vaguely know. But the rest I haven't touched to give you an idea, so I can't. So I'm just going to quickly move on to Best Indie. Barbary Is You, Disco Asylum, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, and Untitled Goose Game. I already know what one's going to get it, but it's not the one I went for. I actually gave it to Katana Zero, because I found that game extremely thought compelling and very clever with how it handled its level design and its gameplay. Trying to work out what's going on by the time you get to the end is fascinating, and I wish it got more attention than it did. But we already know Entitled Goose Game's getting it, so I'm going to move on. Games for Impact. There's Concrete Genie, Gris, Kind Words, Life is Strange 2, and Sea of Solitude. I haven't played any of these, so I guess I'll give it to Sea of Solitude because, hey, what the hell. That's literally the only thing. Next, Best Game Direction. Control, Death Stranding, RE2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and Outer Wilds. I'm giving it to Resident Evil 2 because that game was not only was it a faithful remake of what it was trying to do with the original, but way it decided to innovate and change elements to incorporate stuff that would be elaborated in later games, or expand upon ideas that were there but just couldn't be fully realized, made it stand out above all else to me. And so I think that alone deserves the award, but that one I'm prepared to be argued on because game direction, Control and Death Stranding are also on that list. Both of them could be argued. But let's move on to Fresh Indie Game presented by Subway, recognizing a new independent studio that released its first game in 2019, to which we have ZAUM, which made Disco Asylum, Nomada Studio, that made Gris, Dead Toast Entertainment, that made My Friend Pedro, Mobius Digital for Outer Wilds, Mega Crit for Slay the Sphere, and House for Untitled Goose Game. This I'll give to House, because I just think they found a very quirky formula, and I'm curious to see what they do in the future with the formula, assuming they go down the same route. Next is fighting games. For some fucking reason, Jump Force is on this list. Just getting that out there right now, I heavily disagree with Jump Force being on this list. It was kinda shit. Let's be honest. But anyway, Dead or Alive 6 is on the list, Jump Force, MK11, Samurai Showdown, and Smash Bros. Ultimate. Smash Bros. Ultimate, hands down. But if I had to be on fighting game terminology, then I'd lean more towards Samurai Showdown. But in terms of just being a very fun game that delivered on every front that it could, Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, I doubt many people need to argue that one. Family game, Nintendo got to completely dominate this one, so kudos to them. We got Luigi's Mansion 3, Ring Fit Adventure, Mario Maker 2, Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Yoshi's Crafted World. For the sake of balancing it out, I'm going to give it to Luigi's Mansion 3. Because I loved Luigi's Mansion 1, I wasn't a big fan of 2, but I felt that 3, although keep in mind I haven't played any of these because I've yet to own a Switch, but what I've seen of Luigi's Mansion 3 delivers everything that I was hoping a sequel would, that I felt 2 just didn't. So that's entirely biased, but that's the one I'd go for. But once again, I know Smash Bros. Ultimate could more than deserve that. Now we're on to esports. Esports I can't talk about because I'm not an esports watcher. So AES Trallers, G2 Esports, OG, San Francisco Shock, and Team Liquid. I just threw it at Team Liquid because I was like, fuck it, I vaguely recognise their faces, but that's it. Same with esports player, we had Kyle Booger Giersdorf, sorry if I butchered your name, Lee Faker Sang Hyok, Luka Perkovic. I'm just going to say Simple because I have no idea what that name is. And Sintra, or J1. I just kind of threw it at one of the League. I think I threw it at Faker in the end. I just threw it at one of the League of Legends players and called it a day. Best host, that was even more of a what? Like S Jogs, Machine, Red Eye, Golden Boy, and Candice. I just went Golden Boy because I thought that's a funny name. And that's it. Esports Game of the Year. So what was the best game for esports? That one I really can't speak for, but you got CSGO, you got Dota 2, you got Fortnite, you got League, and you got Overwatch. League deserves it pretty much every year of how much of an ongoing giant it is, so I suppose League can have it. Best esports event. This one I can vaguely talk about, even if it's biased, because I actually watch EVO. Because I enjoy fighting games. But I don't watch it for the competitive aspect, I just enjoy it because I enjoy the fighting games, so I'm going to give it to EVO. But that's the only one I've watched, so that's incredibly biased. I didn't watch the Overwatch League Grand Finals, I didn't watch the Fortnite Cup, I didn't watch Katowice, and I didn't watch League of Legends, and I didn't watch the International. I only watched EVO, and I really enjoyed EVO, so I'm giving it to that. Best coach, I don't know any of these people, so Adrian, Kane, Grabs, K Koma, Sokshika, and Zonic. I just threw it at Zonic because it was the last one I read. Content Creator of the Year. This I usually completely disagree with, and this year's no real exception. Yes, these content creators are important for what they do, but I don't care for any of them personally, and I don't really, so I just kind of threw it at Courage or Jack Dunlop because I was just like, I didn't know really what else to do. So, best community support. You've got Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Siege. Right, well, Apex Legends is going to knock off because the Apex Legends devs had that kind of... If you remember that controversy of them getting a bit arsey in the community for the community rightly calling them out on some greed. Destiny 2, no one has to tell you that the communication from the devs is kind of poor. Shadowbringers is usually pretty solid, but you don't really get any direct communication, it's just you get the blog posts that tell you everything you need to know. Fortnite I can't speak for because I don't know much about it, and Siege is in the same kind of vein as Final Fantasy 14 where you just get big blog posts but you don't seem to really get that much real communication. So I guess I'll just throw it at Siege just because Final Fantasy 14 I've already thrown enough awards at. Audio design. This one was hard for me because I actually really enjoyed a lot of the audio design. You had Modern Warfare, Control, Death Stranding, Gears 5, Resident Evil 2, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I gave it to Death Stranding in the end because I did think the audio design was very impeccable in Death Stranding and was one of its main highlights. And as someone who was very critical of Death Stranding, it was something I did genuinely enjoy about it. Art direction presented by Samsung. You got Control, Death Stranding, Gris, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening the Remake. I'm giving it to Link's Awakening the Remake because I adored that art style. It's unique and fresh. The one thing that I don't enjoy with art styles is when you just try and push for realism. I'd love for you to play. I mean, look, you might be playing Death End Request. And look at its art style. It's not even remotely trying to be realistic. But I love that. I love it for that. I enjoy having fun with your art style. And Link's Awakening's remake did that. And so it deserves the award for me. Action adventure game. There's Borderlands 3, Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Link's Awakening, and Sekiro Die Twice. I gave this to Control because I think it is a very solid adventure action game. Even though it leans a little bit more into the action than adventure, it's still very solid in what it did. And I think it definitely deserves that award over the rest. Best pure action, there was Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus. This one is a complete no-brainer, Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 is hands down the best game I've played this year. So it stole that easily for me. It's such a fucking amazing game, even unbiasedly. By the way, here's the boss. So we're nearing the end of this, so I need to... Thankfully, we're at Game of the Year, so it lines up. The Game of the Year awards. Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Smash Bros Ultimate, The Outer Worlds. Before I give my opinion, I'm going to say right now that I don't think Control should have been on this list. I love Control for what it is, but it is not Game of the Year material compared to other games that are on this list. Instead, I felt Devil May Cry 5 or Fire Emblem Three Houses should have taken its place. Personally, I know that might be a bit controversial for some of you, but that's just how I feel. I don't think Control should have been on the list. I think Devil May Cry 5 or Fire Emblem Three Houses should have been in its spot because they both did better, were lasted better in the community support, and were bigger passion projects than Control were. They absolutely deserved the spotlight more than Control did. But if I had to choose, I'm giving it to Smash Bros Ultimate because of what it represented in video game history, as well as being an amazing game on its own front. It is such a landmark piece of gaming history that it absolutely deserves Game of the Year. Death Stranding does not. Death Stranding is a great game in certain aspects, but it is an extremely boring, repetitive mess in a lot of other aspects. And so although it is good and I can recommend it, it's not good enough for Game of the Year. But that, we've just wrapped this up and it actually lined up quite nicely. I'll finish this. So next time on Death End Request, we'll enter the second floor of the pain area. And I hope you've enjoyed my Game of the Year talk, but that's just that. Until then, you guys take care now.